My name is Wesley Everman. I'm a professor, associate professor at North Carolina State University, also an extension weed specialist. And I'm here today to talk to you about some of our resistant weeds and how we think they're moving about within the state, how we're seeing them show up. So for example, something like Palmer amaranth, which I'm standing in, has been around the state for a number of years. It's interesting. We've done surveys looking for resistance since 2005, about every 5 years, and trying to document where we have resistant traits in the state. And some faculty from NC State, Clemson, and South Carolina took some of those seed and did a genetic study and kind of mapped throughout the state where the different genetics are. And through the mapping they did of these genetics, they saw some distinct populations throughout the state. Now, we don't know if these were discrete introductions or if something else is going on, but what was interesting is the first PPO resistance we found in the region was right on the South Carolina border. And when I was talking with that grower, he was commenting when he first saw the Palmer in the late 70s, early 80s, and how it was strange that a weed from the Middle East was showing up in the Carolinas. And I said, well, as a matter of fact, it's native to the U.S. and North America, the Sonoran Desert, Arizona, New Mexico, Mexico. And he goes, oh, that's interesting. A couple of brothers used to ship vegetables and fruits from that region right up the road here, he goes. And they would take them out, break them down from the crates, and then ship them up the eastern coast. And then the other brother would send furniture from the Carolinas down to that part of the country. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah, the fields where they would dump all the junk from the semis when they'd sweep them out is where I first saw this Palmer show up. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. So that was only maybe 7 miles as the crow flies from where this PPO resistance was. In fact, when we looked at that survey and mapping the different genetics in that county, was a completely different set of genetics than what we saw anywhere else in the state. So these seeds can be moved in a variety of ways and in fact may contain a lot of genetic diversity in some parts of the state. Other instances, we've been seeing more and more common water hemp in the state. In fact, we feel like a good bit of that is coming into the state on used equipment coming out of the Midwest. So the first instance, the farmer, we're walking the field and, we knew it was water hemp. He was sure it came in a bag of seed. So as we walked around the field, I was asking about, any new equipment, anything he'd brought in. And he said, no, nothing. But the patterns, it was mostly where we first came in the field, around the field edges. It just seemed like it had been introduced. We walked that field for an hour and a half. And finally, we walk out, and there was a farm truck there. His farm crew was waiting for him. They had some questions for him. And I asked him again, so is there anything, there's just nothing. And he goes, nope. And one of the workers from the truck chimes in. He goes, well, what about that combine, boss? And he goes, well, I don't know what difference that would make. We're just using that at harvest. I said, really? Well, when did you get that? And he goes, oh, about 4 years ago. I go, where'd you buy it from? He goes, I picked it up out of Southern Illinois. I said, let me guess, this is the first field you harvest. He goes, nope, it's not. I go, oh. He goes, it's the third one. I go, well, how do the first two look? He goes, well, and the worker from the truck goes, oh, they're worse than this one, man. And so, that quickly, we pinpointed where it probably came from. We didn't do any work with it to characterize what resistance it was, but we knew it was surviving several different sprays. So we talk a lot in the state about how these seeds can move and how we can introduce new resistance into areas very unintentionally, but it can have a significant impact on us.